Data analysis. What if analysis with data tables? Introduction. With a data table in Excel, you can easily vary one or two inputs and perform what if analysis. A data table is a range of cells in which you can change values in some of the cells and come up with a different answer to a problem. There are two types of data tables, a one variable data tables and two variable data tables. If you have more than one variables in your analysis problem, you need to use Scenario Manager tool or of Excel. For details, we will be discussing that in the next video tutorial. One variable data tables. A one variable data table can be used if you want to see how different values of one variable in one or more formulas will change the results of those formulas. In other words, with one variable data table, you can determine how changing one input changes any number of outputs. You will understand this with the help of an example. For example, there is a loan of 5 million for a tenure of 30 years. You want to know the monthly payment, the EMI, for varied interest rates. You also might be interested in knowing the amount of interest and principal that is paid in the second year. Analysis with one variable data table. So analysis with one variable data table needs to be done in 3 steps. Step 1 is set the required background. Step 2 is to create the data table. And step 3 is perform the analysis. So let us understand these steps in detail. So the step 1. Step 1, set the required background. So assume that the interest rate is 12%. So we have here rate per annum. That's the interest rate, 12%. List all the required values. So we have number of payments, loan amount. So we have 5 million. Type is 0. That is at the end of the period. EMI. So that's the payment. So we have the interest rate. So we have interest rate divided by 12. So that's per month. The number of months, it is 360. So that's the end pair here. And then loan amount, it is 5 million, 0. And then type. So we have here now the payment. Start period 13 and period 24. Interest paid in the second year. So we have cumulative payment interest rate 12. Number of periods, loan amount, start period, and end period. So that's why we have here the second year, because that is month 13 up to month 24. So that's the start period and the end period. And then we have principal paid in the second year. So cumulative principal. So interest rate divided by 12, that's the monthly interest, the number of monthly payments, the loan amount, then the start period, which is 13, and the end period, which is 24. So that's for the second year. You can see that the cells in column C are named as given in the corresponding cells in column D. So these are the names that are given for these columns so that we can have a more readable formula. So this is what we have done first. We have set the background. Step 2, create the data table. So type the list of values, so the interest rate that you want to substitute in the input cell down the column E as follows. So we have the interest rate. So we have 12.0, 12.2, 12.4 until 14, for example. As you observe, this is an empty row above the interest rate value. So we have here an empty row. This row is for the formulas that you want to use. Okay, so again, we create the table. And then we place here the interest rates that you want to substitute in the input cell, the column E, as follows. So these are the interest rates. And then we place a blank row here. So let's proceed to the next step. So these are the functions. Type the first function, the payment function. So under EMI. So in the cell 1 row above the one cell to the right of the column tables, type the other function, so the cumulative interest and cumulative principal. So where did we get this? These are the names here. So we copy this formula. So equal to EMI, and then we have to equal to the cumulative interest and cumulative principal, because these are the values that we want to obtain here. So this will just copy the values. So the data table now looks something like this. Step 3, do the analysis with the what if analysis data table tool. Select the range of cell that contains the formula and values that you want to substitute. So this is the range, selected range. So that's from E2 to H13. Then click the data tab. So data tab on the ribbon, and click on the what if analysis in the data tools group. Select data table in the drop down list. So we have a drop down list here, and then we select data table. Then the data table dialog box appears on which will be on my next slide. So this is the table dialog box. So click the icon in the column input cell box. So column input cell. So we click on this icon, and then so click the cell interest rate with a C2. So we click on the interest rate. That is actually the first column here. So you can see that the column input cell is taken as C2. That's absolute. Then we click OK. So the data table now is filled with the calculated results for each of the input values as shown below. So these are the interest rates, and these are the values. So of course for 12%, because this is 12%, this will be the same value as the previous one. So if we use 12.2, you notice there will be differences. So if you can pay an EMI of 54,000, let's say my maximum what I can pay is 54,000, you can observe that the interest rate of 12.6% is suitable for you. So that is now for the one variable data table. So next, let's proceed with the two variable data tables. A two variable data table can be used if you want to see how different values of two variables in a formula will change the results of that formula. In other words, with a two variable data table, you can determine how changing two input variable or two input changes a single output. You will understand this with the help of an example. So in our example, there is a loan of 50 million. You want to know how different combinations of interest rates and loan tenures will affect the monthly payment EMI. Analysis with the two variable data table. So analysis with the two variable data table needs to be done in 3 steps. Step 1, set the required background. Step 2, create the table. Then step 3, perform the analysis. So step 1, set the required background. Assume that the interest rate is 12%. So rate per annum, we have here 12%. So this is the name given to this. So interest rate. List all the required values. So number of payments is 360. Okay, so loan amount is, what's this? This is 5 million. it's 50 million. So there's something wrong with this one. So it's only 5 million. Okay, 5 million, type is 0. So at the end equals payment interest rate divided by 12. So we get the monthly interest rate, number of payments, and then we have loan amount. So this one, and then 0, and then type is also 0. So you can see that the cells in the column C are named as a given in the corresponding cells in column D. So these are the name properties or names of these cells. Okay, step 2. Create the data table. So in the data table, we have interest rates, and then we have here number of payments. So we type equal to EMI under F2. Then type the first list of input values, that is interest rate down column F, starting with a cell below the formula, so that is at cell F3. Then type the second list of input values, that is the number of payments across row 2. So we're going to place it the number of payments across row 2, starting with a cell to the right of the formula, that is G2. So in other words, this will be our value. So here we have, let's go back, we have here the monthly interest rate, the EMI, and then below we have here the interest rates. And then here across, so that's why it's two variable. We have actually rows and columns. And then here we have here number of payments. So 20 years, etc. Okay. And then we proceed, do the analysis with the what if analysis tool data table. Select the range of cells that contains the formula and the two sets of values that you want to substitute. So we select this range. Select the range F2, so that's F2 to L13. So that's the range where the formula and the two sets variables are located. So click on the data ribbon. So here, click on the what if analysis in the data tools group, and then select data table. Then, so the data table dialog box appears. Click the icon in the row input cell box, so the row input cell. So we click on this row, and then we click on C3, because the row here represents the number of payments. So we place here C3. So row, so number of payments, and that is the row. And then for column, obviously because this is the interest rate, so for column we select cell C2. You will see that the row input cell is taken as C3 and the column input cell is C2. Then we click OK. The data table now gets filled with the calculated results for each combination of the two input values. So this is what we're going to compute, and these are the interest rates and the number of payments. So these are now the given values. So in our background table, that's 12% and 360 number of payments. That's why this value is equal to this value, and we have here the value, the what if values. So if you can pay an EMI of 54,000, the interest rate of 12.2% and 288 EMIs will be suitable for you. This means that the tenure of the loan would be 24 years. Data table calculations. Data tables are recalculated each time the worksheet containing them is recalculated, even if they have not changed. To speed up the calculations in a worksheet that contains data table, you need to change the calculation options to automatically recalculate the worksheet but not the data tables as given in the next section. So let's speeding up calculations in a worksheet. So you can speed up the calculations in a worksheet containing data tables in two ways, from Excel option or from the ribbon. So when we speed up using Excel option, this is what we do. So we click the File tab and the ribbon, so that's at the leftmost, then click Options from the list in the left pane. Then Excel Options dialog box appears. So this is the Excel Options dialog box. So from the left pane, select Formulas and select the option Automatic except for Data Tables under Workbook Calculation in the Calculation Options section. Then we click OK. So that's how we do that. So from the ribbon, click the Formulas tab on the ribbon. So Formulas tab on the ribbon, click on the Calculation Options in the Calculations group, and then select Automatic except for Data Tables in the drop-down list. Okay, so that ends our lecture for what if analysis using data tables. Thank you very much for viewing this video.